Welcome to this special video on the Loyalist Primarchs of the Imperium, the Emperor's legendary sons who stood firm against the forces of chaos. Each of these Primarchs brought unique strengths and virtues to the Imperium, embodying different aspects of their father's vision. Today, we'll explore the lore, accomplishments, and legacy of each of these incredible warriors. So if you're ready to dive deep into the heart of Warhammer 40k, stay with us. Look at Roboute Guilliman, the avenging son of the Emperor. Roboute Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, is a towering figure both literally and figuratively in the Imperium of Man. Born on the planet Macraga, Guilliman was not just a master warrior, but also a brilliant administrator and strategist. His leadership skills transformed Macragge into a highly efficient, prosperous world, a reflection of his natural ability to balance war and statecraft. When the Emperor of Mankind discovered Guilliman during the Great Crusade, he quickly recognized his talents. Roboute was given command of the Ultramarines, the largest Space Marine legion, and with them, he conquered countless worlds for the Imperium. But Guilliman's most significant contribution came after the events of the Horus Heresy, when the Imperium was left in ruins. The Codex Astartes. Following the death of Horus and the Emperor's confinement to the Golden Throne, Guilliman sought to prevent any future betrayal from a single Space Marine legion. He proposed the Codex Astartes, a doctrine that split the Space Marine legions into smaller chapters, ensuring no single force could rise up against the Imperium again. This decision was met with resistance by some, but Guilliman's determination ensured its implementation. The Codex Astartes is still the guiding principle for most Space Marine chapters 10,000 years later, a testament to Guilliman's vision for the future of the Imperium. It codified not only tactical doctrines for warfare, but also organizational structure, battle formations, and even recruitment policies for the Adeptus Astartes. His return in the 41st millennium. After millennia in stasis due to a near-fatal wound inflicted by Fulgrim, Guilliman was brought back to life in the 41st millennium, thanks to the combined efforts of the Archmagos Belisarius Cawl and Yvraine of the Eldari. His return was nothing short of a miracle for the Imperium, which was on the verge of collapse under the twin threats of the Cicatrix Maledictum and the resurgent Chaos forces. Now, as the Lord Commander of the Imperium, Guilliman leads the Indomitus Crusade, a massive military campaign to reclaim lost Imperial worlds and stabilize the fractured Imperium. He wrestles not only with external enemies, but also with the decaying state of the Imperium itself. Guilliman is a man out of time, struggling with the corrupt bureaucracy and dogmatic worship of the Emperor, who he once knew as a father and mentor, not a god. A reluctant savior. Despite his reluctance to embrace the imperial cult, Guilliman is viewed as a messianic figure by the people of the Imperium. His return has rekindled hope across the galaxy, but it also places a tremendous burden on his shoulders. Guilliman understands that the Imperium is a far cry from the vision his father once had, and he is left to navigate this dark, dystopian version of humanity's empire, while still trying to preserve it. Roboute Guilliman is, in many ways, the Imperium's best chance for survival in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, but he knows the task ahead may be greater than even he can handle. Lionel Johnson, the first of the Emperor's sons. Lionel Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels, was the first of the Emperor's sons to be genetically created and one of the most mysterious. Raised on the death world of Caliban, Lion grew up in a land of dark forests filled with deadly beasts. His upbringing, isolated from humanity, made him both a ferocious warrior and a deeply private, enigmatic figure. When the Emperor of Mankind eventually found him, Lionel Johnson had already united Caliban's knightly orders and purged the planet of its monstrous creatures. With his command over the Dark Angels Legion, the Lion proved himself as one of the Emperor's most capable generals during the Great Crusade, his methods ruthless yet effective in bringing compliance to worlds across the galaxy. The fall of the Dark Angels. The Lion's loyalty to the Emperor was unquestionable, but his relationship with his brothers was fraught with tension. Most notably, his rivalry with his brother, Leman Russ, nearly resulted in a catastrophic civil war within the Imperium. Despite their eventual reconciliation, the lion's cold, calculating nature often put him at odds with his more passionate or impulsive siblings. During the Horus Heresy, while most of the Dark Angels were loyal to the Emperor, a dark betrayal lurked within their ranks. As the lion fought against the traitors, his homeworld, Caliban, was torn apart by internal rebellion led by his once trusted friend and mentor, Luther. The final confrontation between the lion and Luther resulted in the destruction of Caliban, and Lion L. Johnson disappeared, believed to be mortally wounded. The lion's return. For thousands of years, many believed the lion to be lost or dead, but that is no longer the case. In the latest Warhammer 40k novel, The Lion Son of the Forest by Mike Brooks, Lion L. Johnson has finally returned to the Imperium. Emerging from his long slumber within the rock, the lion is once again a force to be reckoned with, as he takes on the mantle of leadership and begins his fight against the forces of chaos, his presence offering new hope for the Imperium's future. A mythic legacy. While Guilliman works openly to restore the Imperium, the lion's legacy is one of secrecy and shadows. His sons, the Dark Angels, are fiercely loyal but carry the burden of their past betrayal, constantly hunting the fallen, those who turned against the Emperor during the heresy. With his return, the lion's impact is set to shape the Imperium in ways unseen since the days of the Great Crusade. Leman Russ, the Wolf King of Fenris. Leman Russ, the Primarch of the Space Wolves, is a figure of untamed savagery and uncompromising loyalty. Born on the icy, deathly world of Fenris, Russ was shaped by a brutal environment of constant conflict and survival. He grew up among Fenrisian tribes, and by the time the Emperor of Mankind discovered him, Russ was already a legendary warrior king, feared and revered in equal measure, the Emperor's executioner. Unlike some of his brothers, Russ was not a master politician or an intellectual visionary. He was a force of nature, a blunt instrument of destruction that the Emperor would unleash upon those who betrayed his vision. This earned Russ the title, the Emperor's Executioner, for when diplomacy or negotiation failed, Russ and his Space Wolves would bring swift and brutal justice. Russ's loyalty to the Emperor was absolute, but his methods often put him at odds with his more cultured brothers, such as Magnus the Red and Rogal Dorn. However, even in their disagreements, Leman Russ never wavered in his belief that his duty was to serve the Emperor's will. The burning of Prospero. One of the most infamous events in Russ's life was the burning of Prospero. Ordered by the Emperor to bring Magnus the Red, Primarch of the Thousand Sons, to heal for his forbidden use of sorcery, Russ initially planned to arrest his brother peacefully. However, manipulated by Horus, Russ altered his mission to a full assault, leading to the destruction of Prospero and a deep, bitter enmity between the Space Wolves and the Thousand Sons. This event weighed heavily on Russ, as his loyalty was exploited for a larger, darker purpose. The two Primarchs never reconciled, and their legions have been bitter enemies ever since. His mysterious disappearance. After the Horus Heresy, Leman Russ led the Space Wolves in the Great Scouring, purging the traitor forces from Imperial space. Yet, not long after, Russ gathered his most trusted warriors and vanished into the Eye of Terror, seeking an unknown fate. Before leaving, he gave the cryptic promise that he would return for the final battle, the fabled Wolf Time, when the galaxy would once again need him. His mysterious disappearance left a void in the Space Wolves' leadership, though his legend remains a guiding force for his sons. For 10,000 years, the Space Wolves have awaited the return of their father, believing he will reappear when the Imperium faces its darkest hour. A legacy of strength and honor. Leman Russ' legacy is one of loyalty, strength, and brutal efficiency. The Space Wolves continue to embody his savage yet honorable approach to war, viewing themselves as the protectors of mankind against both internal and external threats. Though some view them as wild and uncontrollable, their devotion to the Emperor's cause is as unshakable as it was in Russ's time. The mystery of Russ's disappearance still looms large over the Imperium, with many wondering when or if the Wolf King will return to fight alongside his brothers once again. Corvus Corax, the shadow of the Imperium. Corvus Corax, Primarch of the Raven Guard, was a master of guerrilla warfare and stealth, known for his tactical brilliance and his deep concern for the lives of his troops. Born on the prison moon Lycius, later renamed Deliverance, Corax grew up in the shadows, learning the art of rebellion against the tyrannical rulers who oppressed the people of his world. His rise as a leader was fueled by his ability to inspire others and his uncanny skill in striking from the shadows, a hallmark that would define his legion. When the Emperor of Mankind found Corax during the Great Crusade, he recognized the Primarch's unique talents and bestowed upon him command of the Raven Guard, a legion well-suited to hit-and-run tactics and sabotage operations. The tragedy of Istvan V. One of the darkest moments for Corax came during the infamous Dropsite Massacre on Istvan V. Alongside Loyalist forces, the Raven Guard were betrayed by several legions who had secretly turned to Horus's side. The massacre was a disaster for the Raven Guard, with the bulk of Corax's forces annihilated. Corax himself barely escaped with his life, but his legion was left in ruins. Determined to rebuild, Corax returned to Terra, where the Emperor granted him access to forbidden genetic technologies. Using these, Corax attempted to rapidly create new Astartes to replenish his legion. However, the experiment went horribly wrong, and many of the new recruits turned into twisted, monstrous versions of Space Marines, a dark stain on Corax's legacy that haunted him. The final flight. Corvus Corax's guilt over his failed experiments and the immense losses his legion suffered during the heresy weighed heavily on him. After the Horus Heresy, Corax led the Raven Guard in a bloody vengeance campaign against the traitor legions, but eventually the burden became too much. One day, without a word to his sons, Corax disappeared into the Eye of Terror, seeking redemption or perhaps punishment for his perceived sins. Though officially listed as missing, some whispers in the Imperium suggest that Corax still lives, continuing his personal war against chaos, hunting traitors in the warp. His fate, like the man himself, remains shrouded in shadow. The Immortal Forge Master. Vulkan, Primarch of the Salamanders, is one of the most unique figures in the history of the Imperium. Known for his immense physical strength, his mastery of the forge, and his unparalleled compassion for humanity, Vulkan is not only a warrior, but also a protector. He hailed from the volcanic world of Nocturne, where his people lived in constant struggle against both the brutal environment and marauding Xenos. The Emperor found Vulkan after witnessing his unmatched strength and skill during a great contest of endurance and craftsmanship. Vulkan was given command of the Salamanders, a legion that shared his values of loyalty, resilience, and protection of the innocent. The Forge Father of Nocturne. Vulkan's connection to his legion is deeply personal. The Salamanders are fewer in number compared to other legions, but their strength lies in their close bond with the people of Nocturne. Vulkan taught them not just how to wage war, but also how to forge powerful weapons, and armor craftsmanship is in the heart of the Salamander's identity. Vulkan's hammer, Dawnbringer, and his warplate are legendary relics, crafted by his own hands. But Vulkan was more than just a smith. His compassion for humanity set him apart from many of his brothers. Where some Primarchs viewed humans as tools in the grand war against chaos, Vulkan truly cared for them, often risking his own life to protect innocents during campaigns. The Immortal Primarch. Vulkan's greatest secret, however, lies in his very nature. He is a perpetual, gifted with the ability to regenerate from even the most grievous wounds. This immortality has become a central part of his legend, as Vulkan is believed to have died many times, only to return to lead his sons once again. During the Horus Heresy, Vulkan fought bravely at the Dropsite Massacre on Istvan V, where he was captured by the traitor Primarch, Konrad Kurz. The Night Haunter subjected Vulkan to unimaginable torture, yet the Forge Master could not be truly killed. Each time he was struck down, he would rise again, earning him the title of the Unkillable Primarch. The Lost Primarch. After the heresy, Vulkan mysteriously vanished, leaving behind a series of relics known as the 9 Artifacts of Vulkan. His sons believe that if these relics are gathered, Vulkan will return to lead the Salamanders once more. The search for these artifacts has become a central mission for the Salamanders, who hold on to the hope that their father will one day walk among them again. To this day, Vulkan's fate remains unknown. Some say he wanders the galaxy, still watching over his people from the shadows, waiting for the time when he will be needed once more. Sanguinius, the angelic Primarch of the Blood Angels. Sanguinius, the Primarch of the Blood Angels, stands as one of the most revered figures in Imperial history. Known for his grace, nobility, and angelic appearance, Sanguinius embodied everything a Primarch was meant to be: noble in spirit, fierce in battle, and a beacon of hope for the Emperor's vision. His wings, a unique genetic mutation, gave him the appearance of an angel, and his charisma earned him the adoration of not just his legion, but of humanity itself. The Angel of Baal. Sanguinius was discovered on the radiation-blasted world of Baal Secundus. Despite the planet's harsh environment, the young Primarch had already risen to a position of power, ruling over his people with wisdom and strength. When the Emperor came to Baal, Sanguinius immediately recognized him and pledged his allegiance without hesitation. The Blood Angels, under his leadership, became one of the most beloved legions in the Imperium. Sanguinius was known for his close bond with his sons, treating them not as mere soldiers but as family. His compassionate nature extended even to the warriors under his command, and it was said that wherever Sanguinius went, he inspired those around him with his purity of spirit. The flaw in the blood. However, despite his angelic nature, Sanguinius and his blood angels carried a terrible burden: the red thirst. This genetic flaw, passed down through the blood angels' gene seed, gave them an insatiable thirst for blood and a barely contained rage that could turn even the noblest warriors into savage berserkers. Though Sanguinius himself managed to control it, he feared what would become of his sons if he were no longer there to guide them. Despite this curse, the Blood Angels remained steadfast in their loyalty to Sanguinius, seeing in him a figure who transcended the darkness within them. The Battle of Terra and Sanguinius's sacrifice. One of the most tragic moments in the history of the Imperium is the death of Sanguinius during the Siege of Terra. As Horus led his traitor forces to the gates of the Imperial Palace, Sanguinius stood as one of the last defenders, fighting with all his might to protect the Emperor. His leadership and bravery were instrumental in holding back the traitor forces, but his ultimate fate came during the final confrontation with Horus aboard his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. In his final moments, Sanguinius fought Horus himself, knowing full well that he stood little chance against the War Master, who had been empowered by the Chaos Gods. Despite this, Sanguinius wounded Horus, leaving a chink in his armor that the Emperor would later exploit. Horus killed Sanguinius, but the angel's sacrifice became a symbol of undying loyalty and heroism for the Imperium, a legacy of sacrifice and hope. The death of Sanguinius left a deep scar on the Imperium, especially on the Blood Angels, who continue to venerate their fallen Primarch as a saint. His sacrifice at the hands of Horus serves as both a point of pride and a deep wound for the Legion. They strive to uphold the ideals he embodied: honor, nobility, and sacrifice, even as they wrestle with the red thirst and the black rage, a darker mutation that drives them into a berserk fury in times of battle. To this day, the Blood Angels believe that Sanguinius watches over them, and many of their greatest warriors experience visions of their fallen Primarch, guiding them in battle. His legacy of sacrifice has inspired the Legion for 10,000 years. A reminder of the heavy price paid to preserve the Imperium. Rogal Dorn, the indomitable fortress of the Imperium. Rogal Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists, was renowned for his unmatched resilience and strategic genius. His stern discipline and unyielding commitment made him the Imperium's greatest master of defense, embodying the Emperor's vision for a protector who could shield humanity from the darkness of the galaxy. The Stone of Inwit. Dorn was found on the icy world of Inwit, a harsh environment that forged his resolve and endurance. Raised among the brutal tribes of his planet, Dorn had already established himself as a powerful leader by the time the Emperor arrived, having unified Inwit and its surrounding systems into a realm that thrived through strength and discipline. When the Emperor came, Dorn swore his loyalty without hesitation, recognizing the Emperor as his father and destined leader. Dorn brought his unwavering sense of duty to the Great Crusade, shaping the Imperial Fists into one of the most disciplined and steadfast legions. The Master of Sieges. Rogal Dorn's skills as a defensive strategist were unmatched. Where others saw fortifications, Dorn saw challenges to overcome or barriers to reinforce. During the Great Crusade, the Imperial Fists were famed for their ability to hold any position, enduring the harshest sieges and overcoming the toughest strongholds. Dorn's approach to warfare focused on unbreakable resolve, structured discipline, and above all, endurance. His methods won countless victories and set standards for defensive warfare that would shape Imperial tactics for millennia. The Siege of Terra and Dorn's greatest test. During the Horus Heresy, Dorn's talents became indispensable. As the War Master Horus turned traitor and marched toward Terra, the Emperor entrusted Dorn with fortifying the Imperial Palace. Dorn's defenses held strong against the Chaos onslaught, and he led the Imperial Fists in the grim, relentless defense of humanity's last bastion. The Siege of Terra became Dorn's crucible, as he stood as an unbreakable shield against traitors who sought to extinguish the Emperor's light. Dorn's unyielding nature and defensive tactics helped the Loyalists hold out until the final confrontation between the Emperor and Horus. But the battle came at a terrible cost, as Dorn was forced to witness the death of his brothers and the near collapse of the Imperium he had fought so hard to protect. After the heresy, the Codex Astartes. After the Emperor was entombed on the Golden Throne, Dorn felt the weight of his failure to protect him. In the aftermath, Dorn was initially resistant to Roboute Guilliman's Codex Astartes, which called for the breaking of the legions into smaller chapters. Believing in the strength of unity, Dorn viewed the division of the legions as a compromise, a weakening of the Imperium's defenses. However, after reflection, and the painful Iron Cage incident against the Iron Warriors, he ultimately accepted Guilliman's vision. The legacy of Rogal Dorn. Rogal Dorn's dedication to duty was so intense that he was willing to sacrifice anything to uphold his oath to the Emperor. In his final recorded battle, Dorn led the Imperial Fists against a massive Chaos fleet, where he fought fiercely and was presumed killed in action. Only his hand was ever recovered, enshrined as a symbol of the Primarch's undying loyalty to the Imperium. To this day, Dorn is remembered as a paragon of duty, sacrifice, and strength. His ideals continue to live on through the Imperial Fists, who remain one of the most steadfast defenders of the Imperium, carrying forward his legacy of resilience and unbreakable resolve. Jaghatai Khan, the Warhawk of Chogoris. Jaghatai Khan, Primarch of the White Scars, was a master of speed, precision, and unconventional warfare. Often misunderstood by his brothers, the Khan's loyalty to the Emperor and the Imperium was as fierce as his independence. Jaghatai embraced a life of honor, freedom, and conquest, embodying the spirit of the ancient steppe warriors of his homeworld. The Winds of Chogoris. Jaghatai was found on the planet of Chogoris, a world of vast grasslands, towering mountains, and deadly rivalries among warring tribes. Raised by the nomadic Talskar tribe, Jaghatai learned the ways of survival, horsemanship, and warfare. He eventually united the clans of Chogoris through sheer strength and charisma, establishing himself as a ruler feared and respected by his enemies. When the Emperor arrived, the Khan saw him as a powerful kindred spirit, a warrior king worth following. Jaghatai pledged his loyalty and took command of the White Scars, a legion that quickly adopted his fast, hit-and-run tactics, using speed as their primary weapon. The master of speed and precision. Under Jaghatai's leadership, the White Scars became a force unlike any other, utilizing lightning-fast assaults and disappearing before the enemy could react. Where other legions relied on brute force, Jaghatai embraced swift, precise maneuvers, often appearing out of nowhere to break enemy lines before vanishing back into the mists of war. This unconventional approach sometimes set him at odds with other Primarchs who preferred more traditional strategies, but Jaghatai's tactics were undeniably effective. He led the White Scars through the Great Crusade, conquering countless worlds and earning a reputation for unpredictability that struck fear into the hearts of the Imperium's enemies. The Horus Heresy. The Great Betrayal. When the Horus Heresy erupted, Jaghatai initially found it difficult to choose a side. Though his heart burned with loyalty to the Emperor, the Khan had never been one to follow orders blindly, and he was wary of both sides' motives. However, after witnessing the atrocities committed by the traitors, he committed the White Scars to the Loyalist cause. During the heresy, Jaghatai faced the traitorous Death Guard and Alpha Legion. His agile forces were a thorn in the side of the traitors, striking quickly and evading capture. Yet even as he fought for the Emperor, Jaghatai never compromised his ideals, valuing the freedom of his warriors above all else. The Scouring and beyond. After the heresy, Jaghatai took part in the Scouring, hunting down the remnants of Horus's forces. But his nomadic spirit soon grew restless, and he could not bear the thought of being shackled to the bureaucratic imperium that was forming. Eventually, he vanished into the webway in pursuit of the Drukhari who had raided his people, leaving his fate shrouded in mystery. Some say he still fights within the labyrinthine tunnels of the webway, while others believe he will one day return to the Imperium in its hour of need. The legacy of the Khan. To this day, the White Scars carry Jaghatai's legacy, emphasizing speed, honor, and independence. The Khan's love for freedom and his relentless pursuit of justice make him one of the Imperium's most enigmatic and revered Primarchs. His warriors still honor the teachings of their Primarch, blazing across battlefields swiftness and fury that would make Jaghatai proud. Ferrus Manus, the Gorgon of Medusa. Ferrus Manus, Primarch of the Iron Hands, was a figure of relentless discipline, strength, and a devotion to progress through hardship. Known as the Gorgon, Ferrus was a warrior with a body and mind as unyielding as the metals he loved to forge. His life was shaped by a belief that only through relentless struggle and self-improvement could greatness be achieved, and he instilled this philosophy deeply into his Iron Hands Legion. The Trials of Medusa. Ferrus was found on Medusa, a harsh, unforgiving world of wastelands and volcanic mountains, where survival was a daily battle. There, he quickly earned a reputation for fearlessness and power, often facing the deadly beasts of Medusa's wilds. The most legendary of these encounters was with a Cyranoth, the great silver worm. In a titanic battle, Ferrus slew the creature with his bare hands, and as the molten metal of a Cyranoth flowed over his arms, it fused to his flesh, giving him his signature metal hands. When the Emperor arrived, Ferrus was immediately struck by the Emperor's vision and strength. The two recognized each other as kindred spirits, and Ferrus pledged himself to the Great Crusade, taking command of the Iron Hands and turning them into a legion that prized endurance, strength, and technological prowess. Forged in steel and discipline. Under Ferrus's guidance, the Iron Hands became known for their brutal, mechanized warfare and their emphasis on replacing weakness with strength, even replacing flesh with metal to embody their Primarch's philosophy. Ferrus believed that flesh was weak, while iron was eternal. His legion embraced bionics and augmentation to achieve perfection, training themselves to reject weakness and fragility. Ferrus was a Primarch who led by example, frequently working alongside his legion's tech marines and artisans to forge weapons and war machines. He often crafted masterpieces which he sometimes gifted to his fellow Primarchs, symbolizing his respect and camaraderie. The Horus Heresy. Betrayal and martyrdom. Ferrus Manus's loyalty to the Emperor was absolute, and when the Horus Heresy began, he was among the first to rally his forces against the traitors. However, this loyalty would lead him into one of the darkest moments of the heresy. Ferrus took his Iron Hands to Isstvan V, where he intended to confront Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's children, and a former friend. Ferrus was devastated to see Fulgrim, who had once been like a brother, fall to chaos and corruption. In the brutal battle that followed, Ferrus confronted Fulgrim directly. The two clashed in a titanic duel, metal and blades striking in a storm of fury. Ferrus fought with every ounce of his strength, refusing to yield, but ultimately, Fulgrim was victorious. Ferrus Manus fell on Isstvan V, his death marking one of the greatest tragedies for the Loyalist forces. Legacy of Ferrus Manus. Though Ferrus Manus died at Isstvan V, his legacy lives on in the Iron Hands. They continue to honor his teachings, embracing technology, rejecting weakness, and following his vision of strength through sacrifice. To this day, the Iron Hands mourn the loss of their Primarch, believing that they must rid themselves of any remaining frailty if they are ever to be worthy of his memory. Ferrus Manus may have fallen, but his iron will endures, guiding the Iron Hands to this day as they battle the Imperium's foes with unbreakable resolve. And there you have it, the Loyalist Primarchs, champions of humanity and defenders of the Imperium's ideals. Each of these heroes left an indelible mark on the galaxy. But the story doesn't end here. Next, we'll venture into the darker side of the Primarch legacy, covering those who turned their backs on the Emperor and joined the forces of chaos, the traitor Primarchs. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss it. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay strong in the Emperor's light.